Joining me today is Dr. Sean Castile. Sean is a specialist in soybean production, and he's going to provide an overview for us today about growing soybeans, and specifically he's going to tell us where high oleic soybeans are grown and any special considerations that farmers need to consider when growing these types of soybeans. Welcome, Sean.
Glad to be here.
Let's get started with you telling us a little bit about where high oleic soybeans are grown and what the outlook is.
Sure. So high oleic soybeans are grown throughout the Midwest. They kind of started initially within a few target areas like Indiana and Ohio and even a little bit in Iowa. But they started a few years ago with that, and then they've started expanding since then. So they had a localized introduction, and now there's a pretty good spread across the middle or the Midwest of the country.
Great. So tell me, what's the difference between a high oleic soybean and a regular soybean?
For the grower, for the farmer, there really isn't any major differences in terms of the way that you plant it, the way that you manage it for weeds or diseases or insects or fertility like you would a garden. They're no different. And so that's the beauty of this system, is that the grower doesn't have to do anything different in terms of the management or how they grow it during the growing season.
So if a farmer decides to grow this, do they need to do anything different? Is there anything different from a farmer's perspective?
Sure, there are a few things. Whenever we look at these beans, they're kind of a special or high value. There's something different about them, right? That's why we're talking about this, and that the management's no different, but it's whenever you get to the end of the season. So they want a whole field that's that same variety, that has that trait, that's high oleic, that good quality oil. And so whenever they harvest it at the end of the season, they're going to make sure that their combines are cleaned out, and then they take it over to a processor so they can keep that identified, and so it goes in the same value stream for food or feed or anything else.
So it's just the idea of keeping them separate.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about how the high oleic soybean is processed.
Sure. So there's really not that much different in terms of the way it's processed compared to a normal soybean. The main thing is, again, keeping the identity preserved, so then when they know it's coming in on the trucks, okay, this is a high oleic soybean, it needs to go in this stream or this path, and that's the way it's always going to be handled in terms of storage until it's processed. And then it goes through the normal process with oil extractions and the protein that comes out of that.
Great. So if I, as a farmer, choose to grow high oleic soybeans, are they growing both, or just growing one or the other?
Sure, there's farmers that do both. Some that have contracts to get a little bit of a premium, because there is a little bit extra management, and it's really on that tail end again, that you have that whole field is harvested, the combine's cleaned out, the identity is preserved as it goes to the processor. So maybe a 4 or 5% increase in compared to a regular soybean production.
In terms of how much they would get paid.
Exactly.
For that. Okay,
exactly.
Great. So who do you think will be the consumer of this new oil?
So it's really coming down to the people within the food system. So those that are using it for food service, those are going to use it for direct oil, cooking oil, that kind of thing, or as an ingredient in some of the foods that are made and manufactured.
Great. So what's the outlook for this high oleic soybean?
So really, when you think about it from a farmer's perspective, there's nothing that really needs to be added in terms of management. So it's a nice revenue stream to have 4 to 5% more premium coming in. The target's maybe 20 to 30% of the acre, so a pretty large acreage, but that's also coming at a value to the consumer when you think about the quality of this oil, and you know more of that than I even.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing with us today about how soybeans are grown, and specifically high oleic soybean oils.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.